everyone. It's so special, they make me more and more special, to be Filipino is something I take so much pride in.
We're so proud of you. We're super proud of you, Alex. Thank you very much, Alex.
Hold on, Alex.
Thank you.
Today, I extend my congratulations to the two.
An explosive moment unfolded at the 33rd Southeast Asian Games in Thailand when President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. reportedly intervened during a tense press conference following Eala's historic gold medal win. What began as a celebratory scene with cameras flashing, emotions running high, and the young Filipino champion proudly wearing her medal quickly turned dramatic after a veteran Thai journalist posed an aggressive and controversial question. The atmosphere in the packed Bangkok press room shifted instantly, and in a move that stunned everyone present, President Marcos stood up, crossed the room, and forcefully took the microphone from the journalist, delivering a brief but firm statement that echoed across the sporting world. The incident highlighted the intense mix of national pride, high-stakes competition, and political presence that defined this year's SEA Games. While the event is meant to promote unity and sportsmanship, the pressure of hosting, the charged home crowd environment, and rising regional rivalries, especially in tennis, created a volatile backdrop, turning what should have been a moment of pure athletic triumph into a headline-grabbing clash that will be debated far beyond the tournament itself. The competition quickly turned into a psychological warfare zone, and at the center of the chaos stood Eala. Far from being a lucky underdog, Eala is a proven world-class athlete, ranked 53rd globally, a competitor on the WTA Tour, and a product of the prestigious Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain. Since her teenage years, she has carried the hopes of more than 110 million Filipinos, and heading into the Southeast Asian Games, she was not just a favorite, but the overwhelming and undisputed frontrunner for the women's singles gold medal. Competing on hostile ground only intensified the pressure, as the Philippine delegation knew every match would be a battle not just against skilled opponents, but against crowds eager to see her falter. The weight of history made the challenge even heavier, with the Philippines enduring a 26-year drought since its last women's singles tennis gold at the SEA Games in 1999, a gap that had become a national fixation. As the tournament unfolded, Eala rose to the moment, delivering dominant, clinical performances, dismantling opponents in the quarterfinals, controlling the semi-finals, and showcasing a devastating forehand, graceful movement, and unshakable mental strength that only fueled the growing anticipation with each decisive victory. AS excitement surged back home in the Philippines. The tension in Thailand intensified, with the host crowd slowly realizing that their hopes for a Thai gold medal were slipping away in the face of an unstoppable Filipino star. By the time the final arrived, the atmosphere had reached a breaking point as Eala faced Mananka Sawini, Thailand's last remaining hope and beloved local hero. The stadium was packed beyond capacity, with fans filling every seat and spilling into the aisles as pounding Thai drums shook the venue and chants thundered from every direction. Each time Eala prepared to serve or strike the ball, the crowd erupted in jeers, attempting to disrupt her focus in what felt less like spirited support and more like deliberate psychological warfare. Watching from the VIP section with visible concern was President Ferdinand "Bongbong" Marcos Jr., who had traveled to Thailand not merely for a routine diplomatic appearance, but to stand firmly behind the Philippine athletes and underscore the importance of the moment. As the match began, the final turned into a fierce battle, with Sawini delivering the performance of her life, driven by the overwhelming energy of the home crowd, transforming what should have been a tennis match into an intense, almost gladiatorial contest. Surrounded by thousands of screaming fans, Mananka Sawini chased down balls that should have been clean winners and painted the lines with seemingly impossible precision, feeding off every cheer, chant, and desperate plea from the home crowd. Yet Eala proved to be something entirely different. Ice-cold under relentless hostility, questionable line calls that consistently favored the home player, and constant attempts to rattle her composure, she never broke, not once. There were moments that severely tested her resolve, especially in the second set, when a string of blatantly poor line calls ignited heated arguments on the court. The Filipino coaching staff protested fiercely, pointing to marks on the clay and demanding reviews that were inexplicably denied, while the crowd roared louder, sensing an opportunity for a dramatic turnaround if the officiating continued in Thailand's favor. But this was the defining difference between a champion and the rest, as Eala refused to be distracted by the chaos surrounding her. Rather than allowing the controversy to consume her, Eala transformed every ounce of frustration into focus, unleashing winners so clean and decisive that even the most biased line calls could not deny them. Point by point and game by game, she dismantled her opponent until there was no question about who truly controlled the match. When she finally fired a championship forehand down the line, a blistering shot that sealed a 6-1, 6-2 victory, the emotion poured out all at once. Eala collapsed to her knees as tears streamed down her face, having conquered not only a hostile crowd and questionable officiating, but also the weight of a 26-year national drought. The gold medal was hers, the wait was over, and the Philippines had its champion. Yet, as so often happens in sports, the tension did not end with the final point. The handshake at the net was stiff and perfunctory, the trophy ceremony uncomfortable and strained, and Thai officials appeared visibly reluctant as they presented the medal. The once deafening crowd fell into an eerie silence, disappointment hanging heavy in the air, signaling that the real storm and the deeper controversy was only just beginning. The real controversy began to take shape inside the press conference room, where media from around the world had gathered for what is usually a routine post-match formality. Instead of the typical questions about performance and gratitude, the atmosphere was tense from the outset. Thai journalists were visibly bruised by defeat. The international press sensed drama, and Eala, still wearing her gold medal and glowing with hard-earned satisfaction, was unaware of what awaited her. The mood shifted sharply when a veteran Thai journalist, widely known for his aggressive and confrontational style, took the microphone. A towering figure in Southeast Asian journalism, he had built a reputation over decades for intimidating interviews and relentless questioning of powerful figures, and he appeared to view the young, emotionally drained champion as an easy target. As Eala sat at the podium beside her coaches, prepared to discuss her journey and strategy, the journalist launched not a question but an attack, downplaying her victory by citing a favorable draw, injured opponents, and supposed luck, before making insinuations about officiating that strangely suggested it had benefited her, despite widespread evidence to the contrary. According to eyewitnesses, the exchange crossed the line even by the standards of combative sports journalism, transforming what should have been a celebratory moment into an unexpected and hostile ambush. What followed was gaslighting at its worst, an attempt to rewrite the reality of the tournament that everyone had just witnessed. But the journalist did not stop there. He turned the focus from the match to Eala herself, attacking her character by questioning her sportsmanship, criticizing her celebrations as disrespectful to the host nation, and insinuating that her victory was somehow undeserved. These were not framed as questions but delivered as blunt accusations, his tone heavy with condescension and barely hidden contempt, transforming the exchange into what felt like a live, public character assassination. The room fell into an uneasy silence, as even fellow journalists looked visibly uncomfortable, recognizing that a professional line had been crossed. Eala's expression shifted from joy to distress, her smile fading as tears welled in her eyes, not tears of triumph, but of hurt and confusion as she glanced helplessly toward her coaches, who appeared equally stunned. The journalist pressed on relentlessly, pointing at her, raising his voice, and performing for the cameras, seemingly intent on humiliating the young Filipino champion to reclaim wounded national pride after defeat. What he failed to account for, however, was the presence of President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., who had been seated quietly beside the podium, composed and diplomatic, until the attacks grew increasingly personal. As the tirade continued, the president's demeanor changed, the smile disappeared, his jaw tightened, and his gaze fixed sharply on the journalist, signaling that the situation was about to take a dramatic turn. Witnesses later said it felt as if the temperature in the room suddenly dropped, signaling that something extraordinary was about to happen. President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. rose from his seat with calm, deliberate purpose, the scrape of his chair cutting sharply through the journalist's tirade and drawing every eye in the room toward him. Security personnel stiffened, officials froze, and for a brief moment, even the journalist hesitated as he realized the Philippine president was walking straight toward him, yet arrogance and years of unchecked intimidation pushed him to keep talking, convinced that his status would shield him from consequence. That assumption proved to be his fatal mistake. Without hesitation or ceremony, President Marcos reached him and forcefully yanked the microphone from his hand. the sharp sound echoing through the press room like a gunshot. Gasps filled the air as cameras fired rapidly, and guards instinctively stepped forward before understanding this was not a security threat, but a decisive statement. The journalist stood frozen, mouth open mid-sentence, hands empty, silenced in the most literal way possible, while the room struggled to process the unprecedented breach of protocol. Holding the microphone not as a politician seeking attention, but as a protector drawing a firm boundary, President Marcos did not raise his voice or deliver a long speech. He simply prepared to say what needed to be said, ending the confrontation with just 12 calm, devastating words. The president's words were perfectly chosen, cutting through the noise, chaos, and controversy with unmistakable clarity. He first locked eyes with the journalist, holding his gaze long enough to make him visibly uncomfortable, before sweeping that same firm stare across the room to ensure everyone understood the message. In a calm but unyielding voice, President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. declared, "I will not allow anyone to attack her unfairly." Those 12 words instantly became one of the most talked about quotes in Southeast Asian sports and politics, not because of volume or theatrics, but because of what they represented. He did not debate match details, argue officiating decisions, or appeal to national pride. Instead, he established a clear and non-negotiable boundary that the young champion would not be subjected to bullying under his watch. The power of the statement lay in its delivery, measured, authoritative, and resolute, reflecting a leader who chose principle and human decency over rigid protocol. After speaking, President Marcos did not return the microphone to the journalist, a deliberate signal that the attack would not continue. Instead, he placed it firmly on the table, a symbolic act that closed the conversation and made it unmistakably clear that the line had been drawn. President Marcos then turned away from the humiliated journalist, leaving him red-faced and silent, and walked over to Eala, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. A gesture both fatherly and presidential, he leaned down to whisper something that immediately brought her smile back. Sutoka Yun was left stunned, experiencing the rare humiliation of being publicly rebuked by a foreign head of state on his own turf. Before he could even protest off microphone, applause began to ripple through the room. It started with the Filipino media contingent, then spread to international journalists, and even some Thai reporters joined in, acknowledging that their colleague had crossed a line. The applause was not about politics or nationalism. It was about principle, or recognition that someone in power had decisively used their authority to shield a young athlete from an unfair and personal attack. This moment resonated far beyond the press conference itself, demonstrating the rare intersection of leadership, protection, and moral clarity in an era where such acts are increasingly uncommon. In modern politics, every word and action of a leader is meticulously calculated, vetted by teams of advisors, and filtered through press secretaries to avoid confrontation, especially on foreign soil. For a sitting president to physically intervene in a press conference abroad to literally seize a microphone from a journalist is virtually unheard of, and from a diplomatic standpoint, it should have been a nightmare, potentially triggering formal apologies and tense exchanges between foreign ministries. Yet what traditional diplomats fail to grasp is that in the court of public opinion, President Marcos's actions have been hailed as heroic. Within hours, the video of him taking the microphone and delivering those 12 decisive words went viral, garnering millions of views across social media and sparking the global hashtag #MarcosProtectsEala. Filipino communities worldwide celebrated, and even those with little interest in tennis or Southeast Asian politics shared the clip, drawn to the clarity, decisiveness, and moral courage it represented. Marcos had transformed from a political figure with a complex legacy into a leader who took tangible action to protect his people. The implications are profound. Journalists may reconsider launching aggressive attacks on athletes. Other leaders might feel emboldened to intervene when their citizens are treated unfairly, and a new precedent for ethical boundaries in media interactions has arguably been set. This moment has ignited global conversations about leadership, sportsmanship, media responsibility, protecting young talent, national pride, and standing up to bullies, discussions that will resonate far beyond a single press conference at one sporting event, leaving a lasting cultural and political imprint. For Soo Kyan, this incident will likely define his career, though not in the way he intended. Instead of being remembered as a fearless journalist, he will be remembered as the man who attacked a 20-year-old champion and was publicly humiliated by a president for it, a moment that will inevitably appear in any biography or career retrospective. serving as a cautionary tale about the line between tough journalism and cruelty. At the center of the story, however, is Eala, the 20-year-old athlete who achieved something extraordinary. She ended a 26-year national drought, won gold on hostile territory, and maintained her composure under immense pressure, representing her country with dignity and excellence. Despite being unfairly attacked, she experienced a rare and profound moment of validation. Her president standing unequivocally in her defense, placing a protective hand on her shoulder, and silencing her critic. That image, Eala smiling once again after being reassured and protected, is the perfect ending, demonstrating that even amid controversy and drama, what truly matters is that a young champion felt supported, able to experience her moment of glory without being overshadowed by cruelty. This is the story of the 33rd Southeast Asian Games that will endure. Not the medal counts or ceremonies, but this confrontation, this statement of protection and pride. It will be remembered in documentaries, taught in schools, and inspire future generations of athletes and leaders, illustrating a fundamental truth of the human experience: the courage to protect those who cannot fully protect themselves, the willingness to stand up to bullies, and the power of saying, "Enough is enough." Was the Thai journalist getting exactly what he deserved for trying to bully a young champion? Or did President Marcos cross a line and handle the situation too forcefully? This is a debate that will continue for weeks and months, and your perspective matters. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think more leaders should follow Marcos's example, or should he have chosen a more diplomatic approach? I'm reading every comment, and I want to know what you think about this explosive moment. This is Champions Tennis, signing off for now, but I'll be back with updates on this story, more SEA Games coverage, and the tennis content you love. Stay strong, stay proud, and keep supporting Filipino athletes. Remember the 12 powerful words President Marcos delivered. Don't let anyone attack you or your people unfairly. Stand up, speak out, and take action if you have to, because that's what champions do.